why it's better to have one friend that you hang out with regularly instead of having a big group of friends. And trust me, you're going to want to listen to this story time. So when I was a sophomore in high school, I was kind of going through an identity crisis, and low-key still am. I went to a predominantly white school for the majority of my life, so let's just say I was extremely whitewashed. It was one of those times in my life where if a white person said the N-word around me, I would just laugh. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be like everybody else, and I seeked validation. Sophomore year was really when I started to become who I am today. I wanted to learn way more about my culture and my background, so I started becoming friends with people from other schools that are more diverse. Eventually, I met this group of girls, and I thought these girls were going to be the sweetest girls I would ever meet. Now, this friend group was serving flavor. I'm talking diverse to the T. One night, we decided that we were going to spend the night at one of the girls' houses. Let's call this girl Sally. I kept getting lost on the way to Sally's house, and I thought it was because I didn't know the area that well. Keep in mind, that's what I thought was the reason. I get there and we watch like 4 or 5 movies before I end up falling asleep. And when I wake up, I was in a room full of grown-ass men staring at me. Storytime part 2 of why it's better to have one loyal friend instead of a big group of friends. I forgot to mention in part 1 that when I arrived, the men were already there. Mind you, we were in sophomore year. These men looked like they were in college. So I was already a little thrown off, but I trusted it because I was with my friend. When I wake up, these men are like staring at me, but they try to look away really fast, but I could tell that they were staring at me. I start thinking the worst of the worst. I try to think of any possible way that I could get out of there, whether it was physically or mentally. So I pretend to fall asleep just to escape the reality of it. But then one of the men at the bottom of the bed starts rubbing my feet. I immediately kick my leg so I can get his hands off. Now I'm thinking he's gonna be mad and I'm gonna get fucking attacked. So I try to make small talk to loosen the tension. So I look at the guys and I'm like, hey, do you know where the girls went? One of them looks at me and says, oh, they went home. So I'm like, I thought this was Sally's house. And they say nothing. So at this point, I think I'm being set up. I try my best to not make it seem like I'm suspicious of them. I casually act like I need to pee. Walk into the bathroom and I see a window. Automatically something clicks in my mind, get the fuck out of there. Making part 3 right now. Part 3 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of hanging out with a big group of friends. So I go into the bathroom and there's a window. I'm thinking to myself, I would be so dumb. I would be so extremely incredibly stupid to go back into that room full of grown ass men that I've never met before, instead of making my escape through that window right here, right now. So I trusted my gut and I got the fuck out of there. Mind you, I'm in my PJs right now. No shoes, no socks. I'm making my great escape. Call me Pablo Escobar. While I was doing all of it, I was in disbelief. Like, I cannot believe that I'm escaping, like, right now. Like, this is actually insane. Like, I did what I believed was right at the moment. And honestly, that decision might be the reason why I'm alive right now. So I make a run for it. I immediately run to the front of the neighborhood. I hide behind some trees and then I call my sister. I call my sister instead of my parents because my mom was the one who drove me there. And if she knew that something bad happened, she wouldn't have let me go out again. I'm frantically explaining everything on the phone to my sister. She literally speeds to come get me. When she gets there, I immediately hop in her car and we get the fuck out of there. On our way home, I get a text from Sally. Last part is part 4. I'm making that right now. Part 4 of why you should have one loyal friend instead of having a big group of friends. So I'm on my way home and I get a text from Sally. Hey girl, where are you? We went to the gas station to get some milkshakes. You could have came with, but you were already asleep. I didn't even respond. I just blocked all of them because I know damn well that they were not getting milkshakes. Because 1, why didn't they wake me up to get milkshakes? Because I wasn't the first person to fall asleep. I'd never fall asleep first at somebody's house with a big group of people. I saw somebody else who looked like they were sleeping, so I thought that I was going to fall asleep too. 2, why were all those grown ass men there? Nobody told me that they were going to be there. Like I said, we were sophomores. These men were in college. Maybe even graduated from college. They were grown. 3, why would she lie about it being her house? 4, why did the boy say she went home? I remember when I said I kept getting lost because I didn't know the area. Once I went back to look through the messages that I had with those girls to see if there was anything fishy going on, I noticed that they were all sending me different addresses. Either one number would be off or a letter would be off. They definitely were planning something because they were trying to get me there late. I haven't seen or talked to those girls since then.
Girlfriend. Like our first fight, I told him something that I didn't want anybody else knowing. And what do you know? Right after I tell him, my family knows, his family knows, my crush knows, all of our friends know. After this, I probably should have distanced myself, but he apologized and we became friends again. That was sign number 1. Sign number 2, his huge change in attitude. 1 second, he would be extremely rude to me, and then he would be this really sweet and caring guy, and his apologies were the best. So it was really hard not to forgive him. He was like a master manipulator. Number 3, we only talked whenever it was convenient for him. Like seriously, we would never talk unless he needed something, like for part 2. Part 2 about my toxic ex-best friend. I think we left off on sign number 3, which was the only time that we would talk was when it was convenient for him. He would never reach out, which left me being the one who was constantly trying to preserve our friendship or whatever was left of it. Like, all of our messages were literally me, and it made me seem really needy, and like I was putting in way too much effort because he would literally answer with the most simple messages. Like, yeah, okay, Sure. And he would only talk to me whenever he wasn't with his friends. Sign number 4. It felt like he was embarrassed of me. Now, I know that I was 2 years younger than him, but we were still friends, and I really don't think that's that much of a difference. Like, he would never want to be seen with me. The last sign, he would literally always talk about me behind my back. And I thought this was just rumors at first, until finally several people told me that it was not a rumor. He would say things like, oh, she's ugly, she's so immature, she's annoying and childish, she's so annoying. And then I finally decided to cut him off. Because if the bad outweighed the good, was it really worth keeping that person in my life?
Story time about how my sister went missing on our family vacation. So, little background information. My sister, my family, and I decided to stay at a beautiful luxury resort in the Caribbean. Now, my sister was quite a few years older than I was, but I was super excited because my sister and I were finally going to be able to spend time together after her being away at college for what felt like so long. Which, her and I did spend a lot of time together, but my sister was living her best life. She was young, smart, outgoing, beautiful, and everything else under the sun. Allison, aka my sister, was the girl who, in a room full of 100 other people, she was the one who caught your eye. And of course, all of the guys were drooling over her. There were the boys that were her age, and then there were the older men, and then there were even some of the married men. Gross, I know. And even some of the women. But she had 2 little vacation situationships going on. And like I said, she was living her best life until she wasn't. The one night my sister Allison ended up not coming back to the room. And that was the plot of Saint X, a new show on Hulu with new episodes every Wednesday, streaming now.
At age 15 because she found out I was dating a mixed boy. So basically my mom wasn't strict at all and she let me do almost anything that I wanted. But when it came to dating, it was a whole different story. I mean, she let me start dating at 12 years old, but every single time I told her I had a boyfriend, the first thing that she would say is, he better be white. And she'd always say, if it ain't white, it ain't right. Mind you, my preference was mixed and dark-skinned boys. So of course, I'm gonna go after to what I'm attracted to. And at 14, I started dating this kid and I asked my mom if I could invite my boyfriend to my birthday. We weren't really doing anything big. It was kind of just like a family party with a couple friends. And she said yes. Mind you, she had never met him or seen a picture of him, so she was kind of excited to meet him. So my birthday comes around, and he gets there. And as soon as he walked into the door, I gave him a big hug, and my mom turned around and gave me the most evil look ever. She pulled me aside, and her exact words were, "Is this a joke?" And she literally said, "I trusted you enough to not bring this kind of hood in our house." I'm running out of time for this part 2. Part 2 of how my mom kicked me out at age 15 because she found out I was dating a mixed boy. Continuing with the story, after the party, I had asked him to stay for like an hour or 2 later. And afterwards, my mom was just being completely rude the entire time towards him. And right in front of him, she screamed at me and said, "I don't want this type of black trash in my house. Please get it out." Mind you, I hate disrespecting my mom and I never talked back to her. But I yelled back at her and said that was the most disrespectful thing she could have ever said. And while all this is happening, he looks like he's about to bust into tears. Like, I genuinely know this kid had a soft spot for me. So I apologize and I tell him I think it's best for him to leave. And afterwards he FaceTimes me and he tells me that he will do anything to be able to keep me. And after he leaves, my mom tells me that I'm a big disgrace to the family and she doesn't want me living there no more. All over me bringing a mixed guy to the house. I'm now 19 and I'm still with him. And I really haven't talked to my mom since. But that day she kicked me out and I had to go stay with his family. She still wants nothing to do with me because I'm still with a mixed guy. Mom, if you're listening to this, you're a racist. Story time of how my stepmom got so jealous of me and my dad's bond that she plotted to kill me. So I never really liked my stepmom in the first place because she was a little controlling over my dad. And I just knew that she hated me and I really hated her too. But you know, my dad was in love and he seemed happy, so I didn't really say anything. And my dad would always take me to lunch on Saturdays and Sundays. And we'd have like a dad-daughter bonding day, I guess. And me and my dad were just super close. And every single weekend, me going to lunch with him would start an argument between them two because she said I was taking time away from them two. My dad really never chose sides, but I never really got involved in the relationship as much as I hated her because I just loved seeing my dad happy. Also, at this time, I was 15. And what I'm about to say next might sound just a little crazy and unbelievable, but I'm not sure who she was on the phone with. But while on the phone with somebody, she was talking about getting rid of me. Mind you, my mom had passed away when I was younger, and I really had no other family to go to. Now, this is where the story takes a turn for the worse and she tries to get rid of me. I'm running out of time for the crazy part 2. Part 2 of how my stepmom got so jealous of me and my dad's bond that she plotted to kill me. Continuing with the story, I don't know who she was on the phone with, but I overheard her on the phone saying that she was going to get rid of me.
I didn't really care and I didn't really think anything of it because I knew she was crazy, but I didn't think she was that crazy. So all of a sudden she started making me breakfast. And I'm not a breakfast person. I can't eat right when I get up. So every time she would make me breakfast, I'd be like, thanks, but I'm not hungry. And she would get so mad. Like, so freaking mad. I'm not going to get into all the little details, but comes to find out, she was putting rat poison in my food. She had set up cameras in my room. And I don't know what kind of sense this makes. I think she's just crazy, but she started to hide snakes in my room and claim it was my fault that the snakes were coming in my room. Yeah, doesn't really make any sense. Once I told my dad, and my dad got out of his little in love stage with her, he finally stepped up and said something to her, and she admitted that she wanted me dead. He eventually called the cops, and to this day, she is in jail for attempted murder. Oh, did I forget to mention the day that he broke up with her, she tried to stab me in the throat.
Am I wrong for refusing to help my daughter with her car payment because she is a stripper? I, 42 male, have a 22-year-old daughter. She's in college and lives on campus. I agreed to help her make her car payments since she was in school. I was recently informed by a young man I work with that my daughter strips at a club about 40 minutes away. I confronted her on this, and she said she didn't plan to do it after she graduated and just needed some money. I told her then to work at McDonald's, not use her body. Ugh. But I get your point, I really do as a dad, but the amount of money you make at McDonald's versus the amount of money you make as a stripper is drastic. If school didn't cost an arm and a leg to survive, I'd be like, yeah, work at McDonald's. But life is expensive right now. It doesn't cost as much as it did when you were in school, which was like, what, $1,000 a semester? Shit is expensive. School is like $5-6 grand a semester minimum. And that's not including living expenses. We got into an argument and I asked her to quit stripping and get a decent job then. She refused and said stripping was easy money, so basically I said there was no need for me to pay her car payment anymore since she was making money so easily. She got upset and said that wasn't fair and that she doesn't make enough for that. I told her to figure it out. She told my wife about what happened and my wife was upset by her job choice but says it's unfair for me to stop supporting her so suddenly over an argument. I think it's perfectly fair, it's my money and my decision when to cut it off. Ouch. Can we talk about the guy who snitched on him? Like, wait, that's so weird. If I ever saw a coworker's daughter, sister, mother, whatever at a strip club, I ain't telling him. That's none of my business. I think, honestly, that guy's the asshole out of everyone. And people say, no, I would want to know. That's not... This girl's a grown-ass girl. Am I the asshole for not wanting to be the babysitter at my friend's wedding? So I, 22 female, love babies. I've always wanted kids, but I want to wait until I'm married to have them. I don't mind watching kids at all, but I dread going to an event and everyone just dumping their kids on me just because they know I like kids. Last month, my friend and a couple of others had lunch together to plan more for wedding. I was at work and I was unable to attend. They decided that since I was okay with watching the bride's child, I should be okay with watching everyone else's kids too. They decided to set up a daycare-like area at the venue where I would watch the kids. I didn't even know they planned this until yesterday. I told my friend, the bride, that I would only watch her kid. That's all I agreed to. She argued that since I work in pediatrics and I actually like kids, I should have no problem handling 7 to 10 kids. I told her no, I only agreed to watch her child because it was her wedding. I tried to reason and say that if the other parents were willing to pay me for watching their kids, then I would be fine with it. But she said she didn't want to make them pay for something that should be free. Am I the asshole? I kind of feel like one now because she said there are 2 families that aren't coming because they were under the impression there would be free childcare at her wedding, and she's saying I ruined her wedding. Everyone else is telling me just to be nice and help her out because she's already stressed enough. My girlfriend insisted on an open relationship and now wants to close it, but I'm having the time of my life. How do I proceed? So, me and my...
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time. And who can say if your love grows, as your heart shows, only time. We gotta...
Yeah, but she said there was no other option for her and I didn't want to lose her, so I agreed. We made the rule that we tell each other who and when we were hooking up with and others. And after 2 days of this starting, she went and slept with her ex. I was kind of sad, and to lift my spirits, my friends took me to a club. We danced and enjoyed our time there and joined a girl group. One of them started grinding on me and I took her number. We met up later at my place and we slept together and it was so much better. My girlfriend was what one would call a pillow princess. I had told my girlfriend about her and she just sent a thumbs up emoji and a text that she'd be hooking up with her ex again. It was weird and it did click to me that she just wanted to mess around with her ex, but I was also having fun and didn't want to close up again. I was feeling confident and handsome and attractive for the first time in a while, and I realized that she never actually made me feel that way. We started seeing each other less and less. We went from hanging out daily for the first 2 years to 3 or 4 times a week to once a week. One day we were out at the mall together and she stopped at a store to try on some clothes. I ran into a friend of mine in the store and we started chatting and openly flirting and ended it with her telling me that she hoped we could meet again soon in front of my girlfriend. I think on that day she changed a bit. She stopped sending me a text telling me who she was hooking up with, and she said it was because she wasn't hooking up with anyone anymore. We started spending more time together because she wanted to. She started initiating more and started trying out new stuff and generally being more affectionate. I knew this was love bombing, but I enjoyed it, so I didn't really do much. I still took advantage of the open relationship though and would still go out to have fun, and this started irking her. She asked me why I was still with others now that she was giving me all the attention I wanted, and she insinuated that I wanted to cheat on her, which is why I agreed. To which I said I was the reluctant one and she brought it up. She said she regretted it and she only had one partner and realized he wasn't as good as I was, so she ditched him and now she wants to close the relationship again. I told her what she was like in bed and how I felt horrible around her before, and opening up our relationship brought back my confidence. She started crying and hugged me and said that she didn't know that and she'd make up for it with me and asked me if I was going to leave her. I said it had crossed my mind, but I thought not to. She cried harder, then fell asleep, and I realized that I really don't want to close this relationship. I've been feeling attractive and desired for a while now, and I really enjoy it. She said she'll do her best to make me feel like that and said that she loves me and doesn't want me to leave her, and she's also changed a bit, complimenting me and stuff, which makes me feel a bit better. I'm actually willing to close the relationship, but I would need a guarantee that she won't go back to being what she was, which I don't really have. So here I am. Do you guys think it's best to close the relationship? Should I even stay in this relationship? Will she go back to being what she was? Girlfriend are both 23 and have been dating for 4 years now. She had an ex before me, but it's my first and everything. Well, 6 months ago, she said she was looking into having an open relationship and it would be good for the two of us to get some experience. That way we wouldn't get bored of each other. I was very against the idea.
A story about the children who lived in my woods called the Lost Boys. As a kid, I would always play in the woods behind my house. And as a kid, I loved playing in them because I had a whole bunch of friends who lived in the woods. And you might be thinking, kids don't live in the woods. And that's exactly right, because they were actual ghosts. But as a kid, I did not know that. I would go out every single day and there was about 10 boys who would play with me. We would build tree forts, we would play hide and seek, chase, everything. I invited them over for dinner all the time, but they told me that they couldn't leave, that they were stuck in the woods. I didn't understand, but I just let them be. I would always bring my friends out there and none of them could see them. Everyone just told me I was crazy. But that was until I went missing for 2 days because one of the boys told me to come with him. So I did. He took me really, really far back into the woods and I was super lost. And things started to go really bad. Stay tuned for part 2. This is part 2 to the true scary story of the lost boys in the back of my woods. As I was saying in part 1, I would play with these boys all the time. One day, one of the boys took me very far back into the woods and I pretty much went missing. I got super, super lost and couldn't find my way back home. The boy told me he wanted me all to himself and he didn't want me to go back to my family. He also said he was in love with me, but I don't know how a ghost can be in love with you. He kept saying he was bringing me back home, but I just went farther and farther into the woods. I was super turned around. Almost 24 hours later, my parents and the police found me. When I was in my bedroom that night, I looked out my window to the back of the woods. All 10 boys were standing there staring at my window. I knew that they were very upset with me because they didn't have me to themselves. So, the next day, I went to the outskirts of the woods and just stood there and talked to them. It was very hard for me to stay away because I think I was in love with that ghost too. And that's never good. Stay tuned for part 3. This is part 3 of the true scary story of the Lost Boys. As I was saying in part 2, I was falling in love with one of the ghosts. As much as I knew I needed to stay away from them, I physically couldn't. It was almost like I was in a trance or something because that one boy had my entire heart. All the rest of the boys were really jealous of the fact that we were so close. But I think that his intentions were wrong. He kept trying to get me to go back into the woods and go missing with him. He would constantly grab me and I would end up with scratches on my body. He told me that if I didn't come and play with him every single day that he would find a way to kill me. So why was I in love with a psycho ghost? Or maybe it was a demon. We moved out of this house 2 years later and I still have dreams about this boy to this day. He shows up all the time telling me if I fall in love with someone else that he will find a way to kill me. Even though he's a ghost, that really scares me. A psychic even told me that a part of his soul is still attached to me. So the moral of the story is don't fall in love with any ghosts.
How would you react if you were in your hotel room and some of the furniture started to move around? And then you walk out your door to go to leave and you hear a baby crying from the hallway, only to walk out and see absolutely nothing. Well, this is a common experience at the Skirvin Hotel. And while I'm a big fan of ghost hunting and don't really get scared too easily, It is so unsettling to know that so many NBA players will not come back into this hotel again after experiencing paranormal activity. So why is this place so terrifying? Well, the Skirvin Hotel is older than a century. It was built back in 1910 and located in Oklahoma City. The founder of the hotel, William Balzer Skirvin, really wanted a glamorous hotel. It was prohibition during this time, alcohol was still illegal, and this hotel became a booming speakeasy. On top of this, his daughter Promesta ended up becoming the ambassador to Luxembourg under Harry Truman. So she brought in so much clout. This hotel quickly got a reputation nationally. But this is when Mr. Skirvin decided to have an affair, which created a horror story. Part 2 to the Skirvin Hotel. So W.B. Skirvin is described as a man who really liked to have a good time, he liked to drink, he would also chase women. And somewhere along this, he ended up falling for one of his hotel maids named Effie. And while this man was a widower, you still have to remember that this is the early 1900s. So when the affair started, it was extremely scandalous. And Effie ended up getting pregnant. So Mr. Skirvin is like, oh my gosh, I did not just get a maid pregnant. I need to prevent a scandal. And his answer was to lock her in a room on the 10th floor. So Effie stayed in this room until she got to full term, had her baby, and remained locked away. Slowly, she lost her sanity and grew more and more depressed, and ended up grabbing her infant and throwing herself along with her baby out of the window of the 10th floor. And from this moment on, so many things have been reported around the hotel, including furniture moving around at night, people just feeling an eerie weight on their chest, and because no one could get a decent night's sleep in it, they closed in 1988, but reopened later. Part 3 to the Skirvin Hotel. So the hotel ended up reopening in 2007, and the reports continued of a baby crying in the hallway, and guests in the hotel would walk out and not see anything. And so many men that have stayed there have reported hearing a female voice in their rooms, or also seeing the figure of a naked woman while taking a shower. And it was really blown up whenever basketball players started to stay there when they would play in OKC. Derrick Rose, who grew up in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago, couldn't spend one night in there without making James Johnson share a room with him. Ron Artest actually thought about filing charges against the Skirvin because the ghost was inappropriately touching him. And Kyrie Irving will most likely be making a movie about the hotel. And Eddie Curry was literally on the 10th floor and had to spend the night in Nate Robinson's room because he got so scared. This man is literally like 7 feet. So it really makes me feel like there's something very scary going on. So my best friend and I will be hopping in our car and going down to check out this hotel. We'll be staying the night and vlogging the whole thing for YouTube, so go check it out. Also, go over to her account if you want to hear more about the concept of ghost hunting.
Tism for watching 3. If you enjoyed, please hit the like and sub button. And OFC, I will see y'all in the next vid.